Once you have your meat set up, you can begin timing. To time a meat, select Meats and Basic Timing. The first thing you need to do is select the meat you want to time. When you come into timing, it will bring you to the last meat that you were working with. If there isn't anything in the meat, it hasn't been seated, and you don't have a start list for it, it will ask you if you want to add a heat to the event. Say yes to continue on to basic timing. If you haven't done anything with a meat, it takes you to the first one in the list. If you have been working with a meat, it takes you to the last meat that you worked on. Click on the meat drop-down list to select the meat that you want to time. Next, select the event that you want to time. When you select the meat, this defaults to the first untimed event in the event list. Next, check the GNet status to make sure that it is ready. If it is off, the network between the TIMEWARE3 and Meat Manager computers is not working, and you will need to fix it. If you cannot fix the network, you can go ahead with timing and then send the results from offline scoring later. The dataset number, here, should match the current meat number that was selected in Meat Manager when you created the start list. This number cannot be changed in TIMEWARE. To select the number in Meat Manager, click Run, Interfaces, Timer, select Dataset stored from GNet, and select the meat number that matches the dataset number in TIMEWARE. You can use the Previous Meat or Next Meat buttons to move back and forth until you get to the right meat number. Now you are ready to time the meat. Before we start timing, let's take a quick tour of the timing screen. This shows you which heat you are on and how many heats are in the event. When you first begin timing an event, it will be heat 1 of 1. If you need to add more heats once you have finished the first heat, you will have the option to do so, and the heat will be assigned as 2 of 2. Here we have the lane number, status, splits, finish time, and lap number. You can change the status of a lane to off if a swimmer does not report to the blocks for the race or if the lane is empty, simply by clicking on the lane status. To begin timing an event, you need to arm the system by clicking the Arm button. Since we are in demo mode, this brings up the touchpad simulator. It also puts the word quiet up on the scrolling line of the scoreboard if you have one, so that the official knows that you are ready to start the race. You will also notice that the timing status has changed to Wait for Start. To start the race, the official will fire the start device, and someone should press the starter's backup button that is plugged into the front of the computer timing interface. We'll start the race by clicking on the Start button on the touchpad simulator. Once the clock starts, you will see it running both here and on the scoreboard, if you have one. Most of the time you have to wait 15 seconds for the touchpad to activate before it can be hit, but in demo mode you only have to wait 5 seconds. The first leg of the relay has completed, and you can see the subtracted splits have been recorded on the screen as well as on the scoreboard. The splits are yellow because it was less than 19 seconds. Unless you have a very fast swimmer in the pool, a 19-second split usually means that somebody hit the touchpad in error. Probably they waited too long in the water and bumped it as they were climbing out of the pool. This is the second leg split, and as you can see, one of the lanes didn't register. If this happens, or if someone hit the pad early climbing out of the pool, you can correct it by clicking on the lap number here and move it to the correct number. In this case, we need to bump it up because that swimmer didn't hit the touchpad hard enough to trigger it when they finished. You can see that it put the split time in as the time that the lap was counted up. This may lead to inaccurate split times, but you will still get a correct finish time. Here you see the time highlighted in red. This tells the operator that there was a backup time received, but no pad time. If this happens once in a while, it is usually due to human error. However, if it happens consistently, you may need to check the touchpad in that lane. This is the end of the race. If you had the Confirm Heat results clicked, it will now take you to the Confirm screen. Otherwise, the results will be transmitted to GNet and you will move on to the next event. This is the Heat Confirm screen. Here you can enter disqualifications or DQs and correct finish times as necessary. The lanes are listed in the order of finish, with the fastest at the top and the slowest at the bottom. It shows the finish or official time for each lane, the time recorded by the touchpad, the backup button or buttons. It also displays any errors on the lane and what the difference was between the backup button and the touchpad. You can see that for the first place team in lane number 1, there was a pad time of 1:37:30 and a backup time of 1:37:90. The finish time is the same as the pad time. For lane 3, there is an error that there was a missed backup and the finish time is the same as the pad time. You do not necessarily have to adjust the time for a missed backup, but if you get a lot of those, you will either need to tell your button pusher to pay attention or check the equipment. For lane number 4, the error was no pad, which means that either the swimmer did not hit the touchpad hard enough to register or there was a pad malfunction. In this case, the backup button time is taken as the official finish time. For lane number 5, the error is a difference greater than 0.29 between the touchpad and the backup button. If you are sure that the pad was working correctly, then the problem is most likely with the backup button operator. If the touchpad was late, it is often due to a swimmer not hitting it hard enough the first time and then bumping it once they finished the race and were leaning on the wall. The order of finish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this case, will be displayed on the scoreboard. If the order is correct and it agrees with what the official has, you may not need to make any adjustments. If there is a problem with the order of finish, you can hand enter a watch time or a backup time if you have one, or a time that will make the order of finish match what the referee has, since he is the ultimate authority. Click on the finish time for that lane and swipe to select it. Then type in the backup time to the 100ths without using any punctuation. And press enter. This will be recorded as the official finish time on the final reports. If you need to disqualify a swimmer or a relay, click on the status of the lane and change it to DQ. Click OK, and you'll be asked if you want to show the changes on the scoreboard. We don't have a scoreboard, but we'll say yes anyway so that we can continue. And now we'll be asked if we want to run another heat for this event. Clicking yes will add another heat to the existing event. Clicking no will move you to the first heat of the next event in the list. And ask if we're ready to time the next heat. Say yes to add a heat to the 200 freestyle, and we're ready to go. Now let's take a look at some other situations that might arise when you are timing an event. We'll run the 50 free as an example. Add a heat, and there it is. First, if you need to deck scratch a swimmer, someone who has decided not to swim the event and you were told about it before the race began, click the status on their lane to off. Now you can go ahead and arm the system. The starter starts the race and then gives a false start signal. Click the stop button, which used to say arm, and you will see this box. If you clicked the stop button in error, select continue timing and no one will know. If there was a false start and you need to restart the swimmers, select stop and restart to reset the timing screen as if you had never started the race. If you want to pretend that you ran the heat and put hand times in, select stop and mark as timed. Once you've made your selection, click OK. So we'll rearm the system. The starter starts the race, and everything is fine. Until the freshman in lane 5 gets a cramp and has to stop at the end of the pool. To stop timing the lane, you can either turn the lane off by clicking on the status, or you can click on the Stop Lane button and select the lane from the list. If you turn the lane off, it will act as if you had never timed the lane at all. If you click the Stop Lane button, it will record as 0 time, and you will need to put in either a hand time or turn the lane off in the heat confirmation screen. Okay, looks like everyone else made it through this heat. Because we stopped the lane with stop lane, it was recorded as a 0 time. You have to fix this before you can move on, so you will either need to change the time to put them in the correct spot or change the status to off. And now we can move on to the second heat of the 50 free. So now we're in heat 2 of 2. Once the entire event has been run, the results will automatically be sent to the SW Meets folder through the GNet connection. If there is a problem with the connection, the results are saved and can be sent from offline scoring later. That's most of what you'll see happen in timing. Now let's run the diving event, which requires the diving module for TIMEWARE 3.